Hey, true believers. Chris Matt coming at you with Major X #1. Now this book is one of those ones where it was okay. There was some, predictive tropes that could happen. But this was definitely a book that we needed when majority of the X books were bad. Now, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves correctly, this was during X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue, X-Men Red. All those books were insufferable. And then, of course, they were doing the Asgard Wars or whatever that horrible nowhere event was going. We at least got a book that had action and there was a plot. And for the most part, surprisingly, it made sense. I think some of the things that killed it was, I remember Marvel was talking about, oh, the next new Marvel X-Men mutant character, which was Major X. And I feel like, because this was a Rob Liefeld book, he has Deadpool in the book, so I kind of wish that when they did the character design, I wish they would have went, hey, Rob, where this is kind of a cool concept of what you're doing, but is there any chance we could not make him look like Deadpool? I think a lot of people did brag on that. However, overall, this was an entertaining read. We open up, and before we get into it, I forgot, the creators of this book are Rob Liefeld, writer and penciler, Rob Liefeld with Adelonzo Corona and Dan Fraga inkers, Romulo Fajardo Jr. doing the colors, VC's Joe Sabino lettering. Here's everyone else working on the book, and the print date on this was June 2019. What I like is here it says Time Traveler's Log. We have arrived safely at Charles Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters mansion. Unfortunately, it was not without incident. Shatterstar. These students were a force to be reckoned with, but the element surprise assisted us and played to our advantage. Domino down. These are familiar faces among the fallen. Saying you've got 4 seconds to remove your boot from my face. And we open up on this relatively very nice, gritty splash page. We see Major X putting his neck on Cable. And there for a second, when I saw this, the inside of his cheek, I thought it was like the tongue being to the side. But what I like is how he's sitting here thinking. And he's talking about how he came back to this time when X-Force was put together. And he says, Cable's arrival at this time changed the course of our people's history. He saved so many who were lost. I can only hope my mission accomplishes the same. So you're thinking at first he's a bad guy, but his dialogue is a complete 180. And so the book kind of breaks down, like he's trying to explain to Cable that he comes from a different universe called the Existential. Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. But anyway, just the fighting is absolutely gorgeous. And feels, for the most part, very much old school Liefeld. And what I like is even though all this fighting's happening, Major X is still trying to keep his cool, saying we don't belong here. We're desperate. We made a jump as everything around us was collapsing. I need your help to get back and save our very existence. And then we'll get past a series that was supposed to be good, but was a big letdown. And then before we get any more into the present, we talk here about the existence and the existential. That was what I meant by a couple of predictable things, where they're in this mutant universe, and there's the existence, and the existential. It just kind of could be a little more creative. To me, this kind of feels like what Krakoa should have been, the very peaceful, prosperous place for mutants. They're not segregating, essentially because they want to. It's just there was mutant wars. Everything in the main continuity was falling apart, so they found this pocket universe where they could be away and prosper. But things happen, and what happens is this bike, they have like a warp core. I'm like, oh, Star Trek. But that's how they're able to get into the past. So I like it in just a few pages, we kind of get an idea of what the existential, the existence is, and why they're back at this time when Cable first formed X-Force. Now, what kind of throws me off is this is supposed to be kind of him following up to around his 92 run with Nikezia. They were still, the X-Force was still in the mansion, living in the subquarters. The X-Men, I still think, were kind of scattered to the winds. Wolverine was in Madripoor. Peter didn't have his memory. Storm was a child. And I don't remember what happened with Dazzler. Psylocke got mixed with Quanon, and that's how we got the assassin, Psylocke. So to kind of see Wolverine here all of a sudden was a little weird. But because of the book and just the action and the artwork for the most part, gritty, got his old school Berserker uniform, awesome. And what I like how is he asks Major X, he goes, how'd you get enough adamantium to forge a blade? And it's very horrific how he's able to get the blade, but it makes sense and kind of adds a different layer to the book. I was proud to say the only piece of artwork in this book that really kind of killed me is when Cable finally puts Major X down. The whole thing about him holding the gun like this, it just kind of looks like he has a baby arm, and then the whole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost like 12-pack going on. It's just kind of like, okay. But I'll forgive it. Because then we jump in, we have this character called Deadpool, which what I like is how Cable says, this feels a little familiar, or is it just me? And that's him referring back to New Mutants 98 when he took on Deadpool. And again, this kind of starts to feel a little repetitive because we have everyone trying to take down this corrupted, I guess, future Wade. But then we actually get our Mark with the mouth. And both of these characters have the old school Deadpool feel about them. They don't have that, oh my God, I'm going to go to bed with a unicorn and we're going to eat chimichangas and we're going to talk about MySpace, LOL, so random. No, it doesn't have any of that crap. This is back when Wade was a smart-ass quipster, kind of like how Spider-Man used to be before they decided to turn Peter into a joke there for a while. But yeah, great fight, great action. Everyone, for the most part, feels the way they're supposed to. I mean, they even give Cannonball his horrific 90s haircut there. But, it's nice to see Jimmy there and Domino, Shatterstar. But where's Richter and Wolfsbane? Wolfsbane? No, Farrell. Yeah, Farrell. Nonetheless, it's cool. I thought this was, to me, in 2019, when the X-Books were still bad, this was at least a breath of fresh air. Because even though there's some kind of predictable moments and some overused moments, it at least had that essence of what the X-Books used to be like, particularly in the 90s when everyone kind of had the big muscles and the jokes weren't overused, like, oh my goodness, look at that is so MySpace, LOL. No, they didn't do any of that crap that a lot of the modern books did. I'm glad that all that was gone. And I'm glad that they at least let Liefeld come back and have some fun, because at the end of it, yes, again, this isn't like the next major event, no pun intended, or the 1/25th 1000 variant. It was just a fun read in a time when we all really needed an X-Men book that wasn't bad. Because that, for the last few years, X-Books have been basically horrible, with a few exceptions, of course. So this was a welcome addition to the mythos. I'm kind of glad that it got, I'm not glad, I'm sorry. I'm a little disappointed that it got cut short because we have to go into House of X Powers of 10, which was a good idea. But as I talked about in our After Dark review, all the books after that, with 2 exceptions in my personal opinion, were horrible, boring. Yeah, there's a few boring parts that this series kind of felt like, but at least it was a welcome addition to make you kind of have that old school feel. And I don't care if you want to say, oh, you're just hanging on to nostalgia, boomer. That was a generation that at least kind of knew how to tell storytelling. So, sorry, say what you will. I liked it. I hope that you all have enjoyed it. If you have, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy if they still have one in stock, which I hope so for y'all. If you've enjoyed this review, I really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love hearing your feedback and talking with y'all down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.